So if you guys have been watching the channel, you would have seen last video we have showed you guys what I recommend to do when you do 120k, 60k, 120k timing service. Pretty much just reseal the whole motor, do all the gaskets and seals that you can, and just refresh everything up. It's 30 years old, you know, it deserves it. So now our next step with this convertible is to get it ready so we can actually drop that engine in here. We have a couple things we need to tackle first. Like, I would really like to change the wiring harness while retaining the AC function, because we have our compressor here just unmounted from the motor so we don't have to discharge the system. Just try to make less things for us to have to do, more or less. So today we're up here by the power and by the water. So if you can't put two and two together, that means it's time to power wash this thing. We're going to try to deep clean and get this thing fresh and crispy once again. We also have our shop vac up here, which we're going to go grab a couple more brushes and stuff so we can brush some of this dirt loose. We need a 10 mil so we can pull some of this stuff off back to get clear access with our power washer. This power steering pump is indefinitely going to be changed because it is leaking like a madman. Total grime here. We got a nest right here under the battery tray like usual. So let's see what kind of beans we can give this thing and give it a nice little one over so we can start tackling some things to get our drivetrain installed this video. Now we've got all of our brackets and stuff pulled off. Everything's swept up that we can sweep up. We're going to hit it with some purple power, let it soak for a couple minutes while we hook up the pressure washer and get to eliminating some of this grime. Hopefully, I can't remember if this thing really even works. What I did remember is there is kind of like a coating here on the bay from the factory that makes it like really hard to get clean, so to speak. Uh-oh. So let's see how that works out. Now we're all hooked up. Let's go ahead, test this out. I don't know if it's on. It's not. There we go. Test shots. Oh yeah, it's working. Now we don't have a spread nozzle, so we just keep it at a distance. Maybe I need to fix my hose situation. Last thing I want to do is ruin this. Wow, that totally annihilates it all. Now let's see what we can do about transforming all of this. Big thing you want to watch out for is your little rubber or foam on the outside of your AC lines, because it will blow it off. Now that we have what feels like a whole brand new car, it's wet, makes it look nicer because of the nasty protective coating, but over here, night and day difference. Wow. It is a lot of missing grease. But we're going to go ahead and turn this thing around because the sun's actually pointing that way, so we're going to push it down towards the barn, or at least roll it so we can get some sunshine in here to dry all this out so we don't have to worry about really any electrical connections. So while we wait on the car to dry off, we're actually going to go ahead and install our flywheel. Got us a rag. We got to find a little bit of brake cleaner that we got. We actually just had our brand new clutch come in today, so we can actually go ahead and mock all this up, and then I can find a 5-speed harness for the alternator, so that way we can go ahead and actually drop this in the car today, hopefully. My energy suspension bushings, or not suspension, my energy subframe bushings won't be in till, it said next Friday, but that's not happening. I gotta find one for the passenger side at least, and I'm pretty sure I've got one somewhere in the back, so we're gonna go ahead and look for that, because that has to be done before we put this motor in. The reason I'm just throwing all this together to get the car going more or less is because I'm we have a fair that comes to town this next weekend, and 8 days from today. So they actually have a rule that you can't be in unless your car's from 80 and older. It's kind of dumb, but since they're doing that and I can't take my car up there, we're actually going to bring the car show to my yard. My goal is to take about 6 of my cars out here that I have, as long as I still have them. I could sell one in between then, but I want to put my 240 and 5 different Z's up there, and I at least want to be able to drive 5 of them, because 240 will obviously have to be towed. But uh-oh. That's not good. I better not have ran out of brake cleaner right now. I guess we gotta check all of our empty cans if we even have any. Here we have our clutch kit. Actually came with a throwout bearing, clutch alignment tool, which we already have. We have to find a way to torque this down first because we have a loose crank bolt. So we're not quite ready to put this on yet. You always want to make sure that you clean your pressure plate as well, because they come sometimes oiled, so that way they don't rust while they're sitting on the shelf. It'd be a lot easier if I had like that big 1/2 inch impact on me again. I just zap the crank bolt on and use it to help me tighten these, but not this time. Note to self, the part that sticks out is always the part that goes towards your transmission. Flat side, flywheel. I always like to lift up a little bit on it when I put my pressure plate on to try to even it up. And as you do, seat the pressure plate a little bit to where you get the alignment tool to slide out easily, and then you know you're a lot more centered than, say, when it's drooping. There will be a lot more resistance. Find the dowel farthest away from the bolt hole, and that will help you be able to line it up your first try. If not, you'll probably put it on and pull it off a couple of times. Now this is what I meant. Move it around. See right here, it literally takes no effort to pull it out. If I push it down, it's not coming out at all when I pull on. So I like to move it up, kind of center it where it comes out very easily, and that's where I'll leave it. And for the most satisfying part of the job, all done. So let's get us a little harness somewhere. I actually just spotted it. We have one laying right here. So we're gonna bolt that up. Oil pressure sensor. We got it coming back here. We'll loop it up to the exhaust, and then we have to hook it up to our alternators. That's it as far as going on the engine. So we actually did just hit it over here with a little bit of rust converter, just because it had that typical surface rust, and figured we'd freshen it up a bit. There's a little bit under the battery tray as well, but nothing was serious, and since we cleaned it all out, went ahead and gave it a nice coat. I think it looks way better than it did, so that's always a plus. Wasn't really a need, but definitely helps. So now we're gonna put all of our brackets back on, get everything bolted down, wiring harness kind of out of the way. Yeah, the rail's looking pretty solid down here. I still can't get over that subframe transformation too. I could pretty much eat off that dude now. That thing was filthy. Now we've got our brackets on. Got everything kind of pulled up out the way where it needs to be, other than the wiring harness. It's just there to stay off the ground. So now let's go ahead and drive this thing. I'm just gonna drive it down here, get it parked in front of the barn, get it to where we can cover it back up, yada yada. Sun's going down and we're kind of hungry, so we actually are gonna go grab some food today. I let my intrusive thoughts win. I wasn't gonna go, but Now I have to talk myself into it. Go figure. Wonder how fast we'll get. Wonder if we'll even get going fast enough to get in where I need to go. This might be bad. Alright, we can do it. Oh look, there's a top lid. That's actually the top lid that we're going to be putting on here. That's why it's the same color. If you can tell, a little bit of red. This one had a whole lot of damage on it. All bent inwards, being forced up. Hinges or the latches are all jacked up. This one's straight. It's good to go. So we're actually going to put that on there. But we're actually not going to do that today. We'll get to that tomorrow. So we'll actually catch you guys then. So it's the next morning, and we kind of just went ahead while the camera was warming up. We switched out our heater core hoses, because these were actually full of gunk and looked pretty gross. So I found a good set somewhere. Other than that, right now we're working on trying to get this wiring harness out so we can put the other good one in that I have. So far, we just pulled out the ECU and TCU, because we can keep that to recoup some money in our 5-speed swap. And now where I'm at is this connector. So I don't want to discharge the AC system and have to try to remove that plate. So what I think I might do is depin this connector. I heard online if you do that, it makes it much easier to pull this through without removing the plate. Tight space to be depending on a connector like this down here. We'll see how it goes. Finally, I just managed to get my 5th pin out in 15 minutes. This is quite the stretch being down here, especially to keep this stupid glove box. Now I'm starting to sweat. This isn't fun. Fingers crossed this works, because if this doesn't work, all this was for nothing and I wasted a lot of time. Ta-da! We got it off. Now, let's see if we can fish it through the firewall. Fingers crossed. That shouldn't stop us from doing this. I think I'm just going to take my pry bar and persuade this plate just a little bit. I don't care too much about this harness, if you can tell. I have no idea how I'm going to get it back in though. That's all I keep thinking about. Got the AC unhooked and the wiring harness out now. And I actually tossed it in the bag and we pulled out our new one. It actually looks like the only ones we're going to have to replace is the idle air on the back and probably all 6 of our injector connectors. Other than that, all of them look mixed. The only thing I'm kind of debating on what I need here is if I need to find another harness or if this one's going to be good. This is actually a manual harness and this is an auto car. It has an auto ECU, and from what I recall hearing is you can't mix match those. It's supposedly you can't use an auto ECU and a manual harness. It's probably just a matter of keeping the ECU combo the same. Maybe we'll have to check for another one. So this one ended up having a bad knock sensor wiring set up. This one was just a jumbled mess that came in my drift car. Someone had a too good of a time like trying to fix it. Found out where all my auto transmission harnesses is. Now we have our manual transmission harness, so we can put on our alternator. Found them as well. This harness, almost, just kidding, and that was our old harness. Here's all our chopped up harnesses. Luckily we had 2 or 3 left to go before we found this one. This one I think is the one we're going to say we're just going to go ahead and use. It's got a couple of rough connectors, especially some of the coil pack connectors are a little busted. We're just going to send it. We're going to replace all of our injector connectors in this idle connector. And we also have a spade connector for our sensor right up here. Well guys, here's our harness. We've repaired 3 injector connectors because that was honestly all that we could find that were even good. Luckily they were brand new because I already stole them for another harness at one point. Went ahead and lubed some of these up, hit them with a pick so I could scrape all the corrosion out and get it caught up in the grease. Then they wipe the grease on the rag and then I fill it back up. Hopefully help the case for the next time it's on the injector. Right here we have an idle air control valve connector, and we threw another ground on just like this, just somewhere in here. But needless to say, harness is all done, so we're actually going to go to the store, grab a drink, and then we will head back and we will start to fish this back through. But since that is such a boring process, why don't I make it quick and painless for you guys? So we've got all of our brackets in, all of our little harness supports, and we also rewrapped our entire wiring harness. It did look all kind of dusty and nasty like that. We got it nice and fresh. You can tell I didn't do all the leads. I just did what was already wrapped and what we had to repair. So looks way better. Now let's see about getting this thing pushed up in the barn, and let's finally drop our engine. So now that we've went ahead and hooked everything back up, got everything routed to where we can put the engine in, I just happened to remember we can't do anything today because we're waiting on something to come in so we can actually put the engine in. Our subframe bushing that is totally busted right here should be in tomorrow. So we should be able to replace that, and then first things first, tomorrow, be able to drop the motor. But now, what we're going to try to do with the little bit of time that we have left, I'm not really too worried about putting the interior and stuff back together. We will get to that. But for now, I think I'm going to try to put this lid back on. I think this little dowel over there may locate it. There's one in this hinge, so hopefully we can hold it there without having a second person. We're actually going to go find some hardware so we can use right here to secure it. There's a couple tools, but actually before we do that, I think I'm actually going to mount these brackets in because they were just laying here and it took me a while to figure out how they go. So after using some brain power, I seen these 2 bolt holes in these 2, so I decided, okay, these must go right here, and I seen those line up there. There's supposed to be a hook right here like there is on that one that will actually grab the top to hold it down. Because I also noticed, was trying to figure out how to put this interior panel on, it actually goes over top of it. And I've never seen this exactly all in one piece, because when I got mine, some of it was already taken apart. So it's cool to kind of learn. So let's put both of these on, so that way we actually have something that will latch over here if it works. Other than that, we do have hinges right here that we do need to kind of hammer and move. You can see this one isn't touching this whatsoever. That side actually hits that spring bar. Now we've got them both mounted up. Let's see if we can get the lid on. Now the fun part, lifting it while we bolt it down. Is it even possible? Oh, just like that, we got it all put on at least. Just pull it down, see about where it stands. It looks like we got double the wiring here. So maybe we'll have to find out where we can unplug this, or we'll just let this mess hang out here until we get it all corrected. Technically this should be running here, or this should actually be going in. Oops. Now, I've never shut one of these before, so this thing's so quick to try to come up and smash your fingers. Now, since it's not shutting all the way, we got to do some slight adjusting to these hooks so that way we can latch this thing. And we will do that with some persuasion. So I found out what's going on. You can see this bracket and how it's bent. What it needs to do is this bracket needs to be flat all the way here, and this little angled piece needs to just be what catches down here. So we're going to try to bend this back. And we got both of these down pretty well, at least I think so. I do need to sort something out for them hooks. They are damaged and preventing this from going down. This side I can get almost there. I think it would go all the way, but I think this side's a little bent, so we'll have to pull that off and hammer it out. But we'll have to take that to my dad's where he has an anvil. I don't think I got anything to do that here. But nonetheless, it looks way better to have this thing on there. There's supposed to be a black cover, so we will worry about painting all this later on. We still got to sort out a little bit of damage here. There's a ding. Here there's a ding. And we'll have to go along this edge and hammer and dolly this out to make it flat once again. So, still quite a few things we still need to do here. Now we're just at the mercy of waiting on parts to come in so we can drop our motor here. Frustrating, but at the same time, I'd rather just do it right instead of trying to cut a corner and be back here anyways. So we didn't get as much done as I would have liked to, but I think we're going to call it in this video. Reason being is since we have to wait for parts, I can't come out and just get to work tomorrow, at least on what I want to do. So that may give me a little bit of time to mess with that rear hatch so we can get it to latch. And then as soon as our bushings come in, we'll replace our rack bushings and we will get on to dropping the motor into this thing. But we did get our clutch system in today, our line, slave, and master cylinder, so that'll be fairly easy. And we can do all that before we throw the transmission in so we can get the clutch line routing figured out. So here she waits for another 12 hours. But if you guys like the video, don't forget to drop a like, comment, subscribe down below, as it really helps the channel out and helps us to grow. So thank you guys again, and we'll catch you in the next video. Peace.